Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and friends from Earth. Well, I'm up in space, so I thought I'd have a chat with you guys from up here, well and truly above the BS, because it seems to rise like the proverbial sun. Anyway, today is the 1st of June, the first of our winter, and I must admit the sun is shining outside. It was pretty good, but things are not all that good, although we should be finished very shortly with this BS in the next few days. On I think the third of this month it should finish, because the criminals in charge of it, the Labour Party, of course, are the criminals as far as I'm concerned, that destroyed this country, and the Liberals aid and abet. Now, I'm talking to the converted, as usual. The same people will watch this, but sadly the people who need to watch it will not watch it. So the authorities, if you're watching, don't even worry about it, because, we're talking to ourselves. Anyway, I'd just like to show you a few clips from Alan Jones over the last few days. Alan is on Sky News, and it's great to see somebody who's got the intestinal fortitude to say it as it is, without lying and cheating. There's other stations like Fox News in the States. I can't even mention the word. I'm talking about foxes in the paddock, because their truth obviously is too powerful, so it'll get taken down. So let's have a quick look at Alan Jones, and he'll explain exactly what's going on here in Melbourne without any of the BS to go along with it. And I've got some further videos coming up, a little bit more on the law and what's happening, and the grammar in relation to the fictional laws which we were subject to. But remember, there's only one law that really counts, and that's common law. Even the police, as if they were constables, they'd be under common law. But that's a new ball game. And there's no need to abuse these guys who come around delivering paperwork and stuff, because they're the meat in the sandwich. The big boys at the top, well, they're all worried about their pensions. It only takes a couple of decent cops to go and arrest these criminal politicians, but we'll work on it. Anyway, let's have a look at Alan. Further ado, bye.
Now listen, I've been counselled tonight. I'm not allowed to swear at the television. I'm not allowed to throw anything at the television. But I'll tell you something, words are inadequate to articulate the anger that people feel and have been expressing to me about this latest rubbish in Victoria. We are a civilised society, so we must control our anger. But can I say to the people of Victoria, there are millions like me just shaking their heads. Of course, as a federation, we're all dependent on one another. And as you've already heard, from midnight tonight, Victoria is in lockdown, all of Victoria, because there are 26 reported cases in Melbourne. Over 5 million people in Victoria, 26 cases, 6 million. I understand one is in intensive care, and our thoughts are with that person. But what have we learnt in 15 months? Well, two things. We've been led by the nose, only to realise the sheer incompetence of government with almost everything associated with this coronavirus. I've written about that today in major newspapers. Andrew Bolt has written splendidly about it today. Have we become so indoctrinated with fear that we allow governments to get away with this stuff? I've said today that the dislocation around coronavirus, lockdowns, vaccines and the economy loom as a greater crisis than the coronavirus itself. And the crisis is here. Victoria, again, a 7-day lockdown, at least. You can only leave your house for 5 reasons: necessary shopping, authorised work, exercise, a limit of 2 hours, caregiving or medical reasons, and to get vaccinated. The roads out of Melbourne are in gridlock. Masks compulsory everywhere, no visitors at home. Approved professional sporting events will proceed without crowds. Universities, remote learning only. Hotels, clubs and casinos are closed. Can you imagine the cost of all of this? No visitors to aged care facilities, no weddings. Who compensates families who are meant to be married, people are meant to be married at the weekend, and they can't be? And all that preparation, all that cost, what happens? And these lunatics who make these decisions continue to be paid. Politicians and public servants. What kind of world are we living in? I tell you what, we draw closer to North Korea every day. People in Victoria who've barely heard of coronavirus, never seen a case, locked out. Why are we where we are? Simple. Total failure of government. Vaccination was supposed to be the cure-all. No one takes responsibility for the fact that only 1 in 8 Australians has been vaccinated, when more than half of Britain have had one injection and more than half of America are fully vaccinated. But government here continues to sponsor fear and alarmism when there are 26 cases out of 6.68 million people. Have you seen an advertising campaign to reassure Australians and to persuade them to be vaccinated? Or is Canberra looking at the polls, knowing that other governments have ridden to victory on the fear bandwagon? There's no other way of saying it. Shutting Victoria down for a fourth time is a massive failure in public policy. Just as governments here know everything, and they can't be told anything, they continue to ignore international experience on this. If only 1 in 8 Australians is vaccinated, and we all believe these numbers have to lift, read Janet Albrechtson yesterday in The Australian, who talked about the vaccination innovation in other countries. Tel Aviv hands out free pizzas to people getting their first shot. And there's a mobile vaccination station offering a shot for a shot outside a nightclub to encourage younger Israelis to get vaccinated. In Ohio State, and this has already been taken off today, they're offering the chance to win a full scholarship to the university. Vax a million, meaning the odds are long, but get vaccinated and you might win a full scholarship, and one person has won just that today. Why is the federal government here in vaccination torpor? Why doesn't the government tell us how many Australians will have to be vaccinated before our border will reopen? What status does international scholarship have in making decisions that have led to this latest Victorian disgrace? I'm talking about lockdowns. I repeat, months ago, Professor Sunetra Gupta, the Professor of Theoretical Epidemiology at Oxford University, urged Australia, and I quote, to abandon its selfish and self-congratulatory lockdown tactics. Michael Levitt said months ago, he's only a Nobel Prize winner, biophysicist professor at Stanford University, in regard to lockdown measures, quote, the level of stupidity going on here is amazing, he said, and lockdowns, quote, are a huge mistake. The Canadian Professor Doug Allen has done what's described as the world's first lockdown cost-benefit analysis. His paper was published last month. He reviewed over 80 papers from around the world on the effects of lockdown. Half these politicians, I'm sorry to say, are such know-alls they wouldn't bother reading this stuff. Professor Allen concluded that lockdowns, quote, may be one of the greatest peacetime policy failures in Canada's history, and that, quote, heavy lockdowns do not meaningfully reduce the number of deaths in the areas they are implemented, unquote. But you see, government will keep doing it here because to not do it is to admit they were wrong in the first place. All of this is further proof of appalling quarantine failure. The equation goes something like this. The vaccination campaign has no traction. That increases the risk of people testing positive. But remember, over 99% of the tests are negative. But if people test positive, 26, well, not, mild, rather, not positive, mild, they're not serious. I got that wrong. The tests are positive, but when you test, 99.4% are mild, not serious. So 26 people in Victoria, and we go into lockdown. And we lie to the public by saying, oh, the government's keeping us alive. Well, what they really mean is, we hope we can keep you frightened until the next election. It's an unsurprising postscript to the failure on every front, from quarantine to vaccination, and now lockdowns, which world authorities argue achieve nothing except massive cost and dislocation. The bloke in charge of Victoria's hotel quarantine program is now being investigated over the hiring of 2 fitness trainers from a gym he promoted to $100,000 a year jobs in the quarantine program because no qualifications to work in infection prevention or control were required. But of course, the Victorian government doesn't care. They get away with all of this. What sort of show are we running, and who can Australians trust? Yesterday, the Deputy Leader of the Federal Opposition asked the Prime Minister whether the current Melbourne outbreak was linked to a man who caught the virus in hotel quarantine in South Australia. And asked at question time, quote, wouldn't Australia be safer if the Prime Minister built a better quarantine system? The Prime Minister answered by saying the question was outrageous and, quote, unlike those opposite, I'm not going to attack the states, I'm going to thank the states. Prime Minister, would you regard this draconian, totalitarian, economy-destroying, world authority-denying lockdown of a whole state outrageous? And if you don't attack the states, but rather thank them, I can only hope to God you're not thanking Victoria for the damage that's been done to Victorians and the rest of Australia today, and will continue for at least a week. If this is the best politicians can do to handle a couple of dozen coronavirus cases in the light of everything that is known, then I'm sorry, we need different politicians. But first, Peter, the rubbish that's going on in Victoria, and remember one thing, no matter how many cases they report, they'll never tell you that almost none are serious. And you know something about vaccination? Why don't we tell Australia what I said 15 months ago? One of the best ways to be immune is to have coronavirus and recover, which is what happens to 99% of those who test positive.
Get yourself an ID. Have a look at the back of the video. It tells you a little bit about it. Rather boring, but it gets the message across. You need to get yourself an ID. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. The Common Law Court needs your help, and it's the only road back to common sense, because the people are the ones that are the government. The people are the ones who make the laws and enforce the laws under common sense and common law. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and let's spread the news. Bye for now. Hi, let's have a look at this new ID card. That's a photograph, just an old photograph. Just need head and shoulders. The name goes in down the bottom here in the correct manner. Again, over here. And the surname, which is the one they use to control you. It's a person. If you believe you're a person, well, the law applies to you. That's the fictional law that is. And of course the address and this barcode, because all these IDs have an individual barcode, and it's posted out to you by registered post, and that barcode stays with you ever. That comes from Bill Turner's principles, and it really, really works. And on the back of this card, we'll have a look. We stand under common law, and with the claim of the knowledge is with the fact of truth. You see, the truth. You just read through that there yourselves nice and slowly. You'll see the principles of common law are humanity, caution, and prudence. And down the bottom here, if you look, to act with kindness, humanity, take care not to harm others, prudence, use common sense, good judgment, and be mindful of your actions. So it does explain what those meanings up there. And then it says no contract with fictional laws, no contract with corporations or fictional courts. As a living man and woman, I stand under God's law. It's a fact. And knowledge is the claim. It's all on there. And that's all you need to produce to say at now time, I am not a person. I am a living man, or I am a living woman.